Alright, lads and ladies, the time has come and so have I. Let's rank some Bloodborne bosses. I'm going to try not scripting for this. We're going to see how this comes out. So, first things first. I have played Bloodborne a total of 13 times and I have run the chalices 3 times. I have a lot of experience on these bosses. I've also played other Souls games, so I definitely have plenty of experience on these bosses. Let's see. I want to make sure this isn't a ripoff of Sunburned Albino's list. He is the father of boss rankings. I want to make sure that, I say his list is not going to be the same as my own, right? He didn't do any of the chalice bosses on that either, so there you go. There is going to be one real quick honorable mention, and that is for those 2 whales and the Hamlet. The only reason I'm keeping them off the list is because you can Shaman Boneblade and have them kill each other, and at that point, it's not really anything special. If you don't do that, of course, they're one of the hardest things in the game, but I wanted to make mention of that because I think they deserve to at least get their name dropped in this list. Okay, so let's go ahead now. I believe there are 40 bosses on this list. So let's go. Again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. Number 40. Easiest boss in Bloodborne is 100% the Witches of Hemwick. Do we even need to go into this, right? You can go in there, the enemies are blind. They won't even see you moving around. You can literally just walk right around them, just treat them like traffic cones, and you can just go wail on the witches. Just stun for the backstab, wait for them to get up, stun for a backstab, wait for them to get up, stun for a backstab, wait for them to get up. Don't visceral. Just keep stunning them. And then, eventually, when you get them down to just barely being alive, go find the other witch, do the same exact thing until she's dead, go kill the other witch, you're done. And to make it even easier, we all know the insight trick. Come in with no insight, and then there you go. The monsters the other things don't even spawn. Just kill the witches, easy peasy. Enough said. Number 39, Celestial Emissary. You can get ganked in the Celestial Emissary. I've had it happen before. It's no fun. But what you can do is you can also Shaman Boneblade this one, and you would think, oh, why are the whales not here? Well, because this one has a health bar. You can Shaman Boneblade the big guy and just watch the little ones tear him apart. It's pretty funny if you get that to happen, but it's just as easy to not Shaman Boneblade. If you have a decent amount of Arcane, the Tiny to Nitrous will just absolutely cleave right through them. If you can just line them all up, Tiny to Nitrous, they're all gone, right? You'll kill almost every single one of the little ones and chunk the big one's health hard. And then, the normal to nitrous, but let's be honest here, lads. The tiny to nitrous is better than the normal to nitrous. Next up is going to be the Merciless Watchers from the Chalices. This is just parry bait, right? Just lure the melee ones behind a pillar where the range guy can't shoot you, parry them to death, and then just go R1 spam the gun guy. Enough said. You can also Shaman Boneblade this. This applies to all gank encounters except for the shadows, because you can't get Shaman Boneblades by that point. Unless you do some crazy false depth diving, but that's enough of that. Next up is going to be the Cleric Beast. The Cleric Beast is by far one of the most, I want to say overrated in terms of difficulty, because there are people that, they first start the game, they fight the Cleric Beast, they struggle, they say, oh wow, Cleric Beast is like dummy hard, and I can get it. But even on my first time playing Bloodborne, I still beat the Cleric Beast in one go, right? So I can see why it's tougher though. Swipes and sweeps can kind of catch you. It's pretty easy to get stuck under him, and then when he moves, he'll buffer you with his hitbox. He'll just make you stagger back. It'll make it where you can't heal, you can't attack, you can't dodge. It can happen, but I feel like the Cleric Beast is easy enough to get down here. I personally like to consumable only the Cleric Beast. Just use throwing knives and Molotov cocktails just for fun, right? Throw a knife to head at the start, get the visceral, throw a knife the rest, oil urn, Molotov cocktail. It's just the most fun way to do it, in my opinion. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to R1 spam this guy for like 3.5 minutes because your damage just isn't there at that point. But yeah, Cleric Beast, he's definitely one of the easier bosses. Alright, I don't think that's a crazy hot take or anything. But okay, so next up is going to be the One Reborn. I'll have the numbers on screen, even though I'm not numbering them here because off the top of my head. Next up is the One Reborn. Now, the hardest part about this fight, well, see, with big bosses, right? There's a very simple strategy. Locate the ass, smack it a few times. Just do that through the whole fight. The hardest part of this is actually going to be finding that. So what you want to do, of course, is run straight up to the towers, kill all 6 bell winches, come back down, locate the ass, smack it to death. That's game. Acid Vomit can kill you very quickly. I have embarrassingly died to Acid Vomit several times before. This is like the High Lord Wolnir poison, dude. It's one of those things that, you know, you'll rarely get caught by it, but if you do, your health is going to disintegrate. Although I have to say, the School of Mensis did a pretty terrible job at making a great one. Okay, next up is going to be Murgo's Wet Nurse. Murgo's Wet Nurse is definitely a tough one to call because there are times where you can get caught on her big swipe where she swings from her left side with all of her blades, and you can get chunked for massive amounts of health. I'm talking you can lose 3/4 of your health bar on that attack if you get caught on a counter hit. But the problem is that's really her only thing. Everything else is either so telegraphed or the attack motion is so fast that the slightest amount of iframes can get you through it. Murgo's Wet Nurse just doesn't have enough there to keep you down on top of that one attack. And when she's swinging all the blades at once moving forward, she's doing that for like, 8 seconds constantly. You can just triple heal if you got caught on the swipe just before that. Or you can just beat her down with all the rally just to get it back, right? If you're rocking a weapon like the Moonlight Greatsword or the Burial Blade or the Hunter Axe, you can just beat her to death to get the health back. Murgo's Wet Nurse is a joke. Also, you can dodge her Nightmare phase when you see her do the bubble. If you dodge at the right time, it does have a hitbox. You can go through it and then just wail on her some more, making the boss even more of a joke. Okay, next up, this is going to be an incredibly controversial placement. Next up, we have Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. Now, I know this is bananas, right? Why is Lady Maria here? If you think Lady Maria is crazy hard, here is my suggestion. Try pressing the L2 button. Just a couple times is all it takes, I promise. And then proceed to parry about 3 times in this fight and take off like half her health with just that. Lady Maria, if you don't parry, can be insane. I know this, and this is people's argument for this. But here's my argument. Why should I have to not use a core feature of the game to make a boss hard? Lady Maria is an absolute joke. You can just parry the boss to death over and over and over again. Almost every single one of her attacks is parryable, even the charged thrusts and swipes in the blood phases. There's just no reason I think that Lady Maria should ever crack out of the top 10. Lady Maria is a joke. Next up is going to be Rom the Vacuous Spider. There are 2 ways to approach Rom. You can do the pest control where you kill all the spiders, and this will absolutely neuter Rom. You're going to curb stomp Rom with no issues if you do this. Or you can do what I do. Play fast and lose swift, go in, get a couple hits, bail right back out. This is the way I like to approach Rom. It's just I don't have time for pest control, although I think honestly it'll probably even out to about the same, so just whatever you prefer really. But Rom is definitely nothing at all, right? It's a big nothing burger of a fight. You can get caught, like if you get hit by the spiders falling down on top of you and then Rom does any of the meteor attacks, you're boned, right? Rom's massive AoE when you get up close to him, or her, sorry. Let me correct this. Rom is a she. I would put Chalice Rom on this list, but Chalice Rom isn't that different. Like I would say by the time you fight Chalice Rom, it's probably about as tough as the point where you fought normal Rom. So Rom is not really going to crack any higher, even with the Chalice variant. Next up is going to be the Living Failures. This fight gives me an exorbitant amount of trouble, and I've yet to figure out why. You can parry these guys for days, but they have such a girthy health bar. You're going to be parrying and parrying and parrying, and not to mention there's simply times where you're just kinda out of luck for this one. You'll have rounds where the range guys are like only using their Call Beyond type thing, and then you can't get time to parry the melee ones. I've had it happen, and I've embarrassingly died to this fight a couple times before because of that. There's just times where you get the worst possible RNG and you can't even fight. This can happen with one other fight on this list, or 2 other fights technically, and we'll get to those eventually because, spoiler alert, they're really high. But, yeah. Next up is going to be Darkbeast Parl. Now, Darkbeast Parl, if you come in here with a low damaging weapon, let's say you come in with like the Blades of Mercy, and you don't have it super upgraded, Darkbeast Parl is going to brutalize you, brother. Darkbeast Parl will absolutely demolish you if you come in with low damage. However, if you have a decently upgraded weapon at all, especially one that you can fire paper, you're going to reduce this fight to a pinata beating simulator very quickly. You can dodge roll through the beginning AoE blast just to go ahead and start wailing on some legs. Then from there, if you're rocking like just the Hunter Axe is enough to just keep him down constantly. Like I said, just reduce it to a pinata beating simulator. Darkbeast Parl is absolutely nothing with any kind of decent damage. And people will say he should be higher because what if you don't have decent damage? That's on you. You know, you should have decent damage by this point. Not to mention, you can fight Parl whenever you want. You can come fight Parl after Murgo's Wet Nurse if you really want to. So, there you go. Next up is going to be the Forgotten Madman and his escort from the Hintertomb Chalices. This one's not really anything major. Both times I've come in here, I've been overleveled on accident for the second time. He does still have some things. You know, if he catches you on a counter hit with the Augur, he's going to chunk your health hard. I believe him or the escort can use a Call Beyond, and a Call Beyond is always dangerous in every situation. There's never a time where a Call Beyond will not be dangerous, but the Forgotten Madman isn't too bad. It's just an NPC hunter fight. You know, Ludwig Holy Blade with an empty Phantasm Shell. The escort is using the Kirk Hammer. It's not really anything. Pretty easy to just do the normal tricks. Whenever you see him go for a transforming attacks, he's just begging to get parried. Forgotten Madman's pretty easy. Next up is going to be the Amygdala. Amygdala can kind of be annoying sometimes, but if you're rocking decent blood tinge with at least 30 strength, my number one advice, and people know where I'm going with this, is shoot her in the face with a cannon. You will do so much damage on that. Go up there, get that visceral, keep going. Make sure you blood bulleted beforehand. Bait in a slam where she's down, shoot her in the face with a cannon again. This is the ultimate strat for Amygdala. She can hit really hard, and I do advise staying up front so that way you can hit the head, but there's an easy strat too. If you can just go to the tail and whack that a couple times, she'll go for the jump after a while, stand where the tail was. When she lands, her head will be right there, and you can just smack it as much as you want. Retreat to the tail, and she'll usually just do this over and over again. This is the very easy way to just kill Amygdala like it's nothing. Next up is going to be the Bloodstarved Beast. The Bloodstarved Beast appears a few times in the Chalices, but I honestly don't think it's much harder than when you actually fight her in Old Yharnam. The Bloodstarved Beast is very parryable. It takes a while to get the timing down because you have to wait until truly the last second on all of the attacks, but it's pretty easy to fight the Bloodstarved Beast once you get it down. It's one of those ones that's going to be really hard on your first run, but on repeat playthroughs, it's going to be a curb stomp. The Bloodstarved Beast isn't really anything special. All of the attacks are parryable, so you can just kind of spam that. Although there's a couple I don't recommend trying it on. You can parry the Poison AoE in the third phase. I've done it on accident before, although the timing is insane. I've never been able to get it again. But the Bloodstarved Beast is absolutely nothing. Next up on this list is going to be the Undead Giant Cannon variant. He can be the hardest of the Undead Giants because he can truly just stun lock you with that cannon, and it's a huge pain in the ass when he does that. But it's not going to happen too often. Usually he'll be dumb and resort to a melee of some kind, or he'll just slowly start strolling up to you. This is the perfect time to just heal a couple times or go whack him. He has a zit on his back that you can pop for some good chunky damage. If you would rather save that for phase 2 when you really need the damage, that's probably the best thing to do. I usually just pop it anyways for the quick damage. But even still, Undead Giant isn't too bad. He can stun lock you, but for the most part, he's just going to be stupid. Next up is going to be Mikolash, Host of the Nightmare. I've seen a lot of arguments that Mikolash is one of the easiest bosses in Bloodborne, but I cannot get behind it. I have taken way too much damage on a counter hit from the Augur of Ebrietas to even entertain the thought that he is one of the easiest bosses in the game. Not to mention in phase 2, if he manages to get a Call Beyond off, it's death. Instant death. There's nothing you can do to get past a Call Beyond. He is going to absolutely decimate you with that attack. But in phase 1, just kind of sidestep his Augur and whack him. If you get caught on the Augur, it's going to do a ton of damage and could probably one-shot you on a counter hit. So be very mindful of that. But it's pretty easy just to kind of whack him in phase 1. When you get into phase 2 and you drop down on top of him, you want to make sure to Goomba stomp him, so that way you'll knock him out of a Call Beyond if he tries it. I've had him try it a couple times, and again, if you land on his head, you'll Goomba stomp him right out of it. He'll just pop out of the animation and usually try to Augur immediately, although he can go for a Call Beyond again right after. Next up is going to be Vicar Amelia. Vicar Amelia was one of the biggest walls in my way on my first ever playthrough of Bloodborne, so much so that I actually had to get a friend to help me beat the boss. As time has gone on, I definitely have gotten a lot better at this, of course. I've eventually learned that if you just whack her left hind leg and her right front arm, if you just switch between these with the fire paper serrated weapon, she'll never even get the chance to attack. If you're really feeling uncomfortable about it in phase 2, just throw some numbing mist on her, stop to heal, go back to the old strat. Vicar Amelia is one of those ones that seems a lot more intimidating than it is, but when you actually get into it, Vicar Amelia really doesn't have anything. Next up is going to be the headed variant of the Bloodletting Beast. In the Lower Thumeru, this boss spooked me at first, because I came in here at a not so good level in my second run. The Bloodletting Beast by far killed me the most times on my first playthrough of Bloodborne. When I got the Platinum, Bloodletting Beast, Headless, absolutely decimated me. The headed version spooked me at first, but then I realized his damage isn't that crazy. He does have a ton of HP for this point. The headed Bloodletting Beast's HP is insane. But there's a couple things. He doesn't seem to have his blood version of a Call Beyond. I believe the blood ranged attack is exclusive to the Headless variant, which makes you wonder why they even called the first one the Bloodletting Beast, but I can't really question it too much. So, the Bloodletting Beast originally spooked me a lot, but like I said, as the fight went on, I realized, okay, this is a very much neutered version of the Headless variant. He's definitely on the harder side of things at this point, but he's nowhere near what you're going to face later. Next up is going to be Father Gascoigne, however you say it. Father Gascoigne, for me, was never that tough. I beat him on like my 3rd or 4th try of my first ever run of Bloodborne. I didn't really struggle with him. But I've seen, I don't know how many people really take some L's to Father Gascoigne over and over again. And while I definitely didn't struggle with him, I feel like that's also because Bloodborne was my first Souls game, right? A lot of the Dark Souls players that come through here, they're used to the wait and bait of the Dark Souls style. The slow, hang back, dodge, take your hit, leave, block with a shield. They're used to all that sort of stuff. Bloodborne is very different, so much more aggressive. And I feel like that's really what helped me beat Father Gascoigne relatively easily, was that I didn't have that coming in. Father Gascoigne can be parried over and over and over again. You can just chunk his health bar on repeat, and his final phase being especially easy to parry. The long axe phase is probably going to be the toughest part of this. He likes to spam the attack that has a lot more range than you think, where he rolls up and thrusts the axe forward. Does a lot, and he can shoot in this phase too. The gun isn't too bad, but it can definitely get annoying and stop you from healing sometimes, and if he stops you from healing, rolls, and does the thrust, he's going to chunk you for quite a bit of health. Father Gascoigne is definitely on the tougher side of things, but I personally never struggled with him, but I can see how others did. Next up is the Undead Giant with the dual blades. This guy is absolutely insane for this point in the game, being the first boss of the Chalices. Or the second boss, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. The Undead Giant with the dual blades is ridiculous. He has so much health. And while he doesn't have a ton of attack variation, all of his attacks look the same is the problem. I saw the guy Jesus Here's Toast describe it like this. The bladed version of the Undead Giant is like a major league pitcher. You know it's coming from the exact same way every single time, but you know it's going to be different. And that makes it incredibly hard to deal with. The Undead Giant at this point is insane. He does so much damage. He has so much health. You're only really going to get around him with popping the zits or using fire. Which, at this point, you probably don't have a ton of fire paper or Molotovs. The Undead Giant with the dual blades is ridiculous. He is a huge wall in your way if you're running the Chalices early. Next up is going to be the Defiled Keeper of the Old Lords. This is a little high, but the only thing that makes me put this guy here is the dungeon. You have half your health in the Defiled Chalice, and Keeper can do a decent amount of damage normally. In this Chalice, he can kill you very, very fast with his fire blast and his swords, and then when you get into phase 2, he covers, or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, covers their sword in fire, and they put the fire blasts with the swords. They're very fast, very evasive, hard to hit. Defiled Keeper is very tough. You can take some L's to her. I never died to the Keeper, but I can definitely see many people did. Well, actually, I did die in my second run. I died a couple times to the Keeper on my second run just because I came in here at a much lower level. Defiled Keeper can definitely lay the smackdown on you, no doubt, though. Next up is going to be the Moon Presence. The Moon Presence is often argued to be one of the easiest bosses in Bloodborne. I cannot see this. The Moon Presence has always been an arch nemesis of mine. I feel like I can never read her attacks. They all kind of look the same with very deceptive hitboxes. The only one that's really that easy is when she does Heartless Angel and takes your health down to 1, but I'm usually rocking a weapon with decent rally, so just anything besides the Logarius Wheel. And I can just go up there and beat her to death to get all that health back for the most part. I usually end up having to use at least 1 vial, but you get the point. You can just do a couple thousand damage to her, get most of your health back, and then pop a vial. The Moon Presence is definitely tough to me. Again, I see people say this is one of the easiest bosses. I cannot get behind it. The Moon Presence has always just given me a hard time. I don't know why. It's hard to explain. Next up is going to be Queen Yharnam. Queen Yharnam was tough for me on my very first playthrough. It's a very different fight, right? The fight paces itself in a drastically different way than any other boss in Bloodborne. With the clones and the range AoEs and the spikes coming up, there is just so much stuff. And I am actually the only person on YouTube to get hit by her stupid force choke AoE, where she picks you up and slams you down. I'm the only person in history to get hit by this attack. Granted, I did it on purpose, but still. Queen Yharnam is definitely on the tougher side of things, just because of how different it is. And the baby crying mechanic can lead to you just taking some fat L's. Like, if you only come across the real one when she clones herself, and then she gets to hitting you with melee, and the other one just blasts you with the blood, you'll die instantly, right? This is still the final Chalice boss, and you're still going to take a ton of damage. Queen Yharnam is not to be messed with, but overall I think she falls short of some of the other bosses on this list. Next up is a bit of a controversial take, Yuri the Last Scholar from Byrgenwerth. This is the real boss of Byrgenwerth. Yuri is absolutely insane. The Threaded Cane has such deceptive range. She has the Augur of Ebrietas, which again, on counter hit, can almost one-shot you. She has the Rosmarinus, which isn't a huge deal. But she, I believe, is the first enemy to this point to use a Call Beyond. And a Call Beyond is absolutely foul, brother. You will take so much damage from a Call Beyond at this point, it's instant death. Thankfully, if you're like me, you've played this game enough where you know how to dodge a Call Beyond, but it's a very hard move to dodge until you've played this game several times. No doubt, Yuri is going to be the toughest fight in Byrgenwerth, much more so than Rom. Yuri the Last Scholar is absolutely insane, and I cannot believe this enemy doesn't have a health bar at the bottom of the screen. Next is going to be the Undead Giant with the Ball and Chain. The only thing that's really tough about this is the second phase. The swipes are accompanied by the balls and chains, and you take a ton of damage if you get clipped by those. They function the same way Slave Knight Gale's cape does in his second phase of the boss, where it punishes poor roll direction in addition to timing. The balls that follow behind the swipes and sweeps are insane. Even with my health the size of a football field, they will just chunk me down to nothing left. Those do such insane damage on counter hit, which is pretty much the only time they're going to hit you, so you're going to take a ridiculous amount of damage if you get clipped. This Undead Giant has only a couple attacks that are threatening because of what follows him, but it is still unbelievable the damage this guy can put up. Next up is going to be the Defiled Amygdala from the Chalice. Now, I know this is a little low for Defiled Amygdala, but I have a good argument. The Tail Strap. Even as tough as this fight can be, shoot her in the face with a cannon a little bit, just like you did before. Approach it the exact same, and then just go to the tail, whack it, stand where the tail is, hit the head, do this over and over again. If you don't do this, Defiled Amygdala is going to destroy you. Defiled Amygdala hits so unbelievably hard for this point, or I can't tell if she hits much harder than the original, or you just have such little health by this point, but Defiled Amygdala is very tough. I would say just blast the head a couple times, stand by the tail, and hit the head when it comes back down. That's probably the best way to approach this one. Next up is going to be Gehrman, the first hunter. Now, I know this is weird to have Gehrman and Maria 20 places apart. Gehrman I find to be much more unpredictable. He delays his attacks in just the right way, they come from just the right angle, and he moves around so much that it can be pretty tough to land consistent parries on this guy. Granted, it's also pretty easy, it depends on your RNG. But he also has some other things. He has the giant wind blast he does in phase 2. He has his AoE. He has the gun that puts you in guaranteed visceral attack state if you get hit by it, although it has a very clear tell when he's doing it. He can visceral you for a decent amount of damage, but it's not too much. It's not like when the Bloody Crow viscerals you or anything. He does a lot of damage, but overall, Gehrman is not that crazy, but I do struggle with him more than any of the other hunters except for one. There's one hunter that I struggle with more than Gehrman, and you know exactly who it is because he's on this list. Gehrman is very tough, but overall, you can parry spam him, but if you have the Moon Presence coming up afterwards, it's going to be kind of tough when you have to go through Gehrman first. Probably should have mentioned that during the Moon Presence placement, but again, we're unscripted on this one, boys. Next up is Martyr Logarius. This is a fight that is just get good, right? Bloodborne has a few of these like skill blocks, right? Like your first one is Father Gascoigne. You have to get good enough to kill Gascoigne, or you could just make him jump off the edge. Your next one is going to be Vicar Amelia, and then you have the Shadows, and then you have Yuri. Here you have Martyr Logarius, right? This is a skill check through and through. There's no cheap tricks or anything you're going to use on Logarius. You have to get good, you have to dodge, you have to parry, you have to do everything in your arsenal to beat Logarius if you come here relatively early. Now you can come here later and absolutely decimate Logarius, but it's better to come here early. So that way you get an actual fight with him, because you can come here and just curb stomp him, right? You'll stomp a mud hole and walk it dry. But it's much more fun to go toe-to-toe with Logarius at a slightly lower level, around level 50 or 60 or so. I usually like to come here directly after Bergenworth. Next up is Ebrietas, Daughter of the Cosmos. Ebrietas is one that seems to only get more and more difficult with me. Very large health pool, some janky hitboxes. Very, very janky and goofy hitboxes. She has a unique version of a Call Beyond, which homes specifically on the player, which the other one does not. Like, they kind of shoot everywhere and a few blasts will go to you. Ebrietas' version homes specifically on the player. And in some ways that makes that easier to dodge, because you can just wait till you start to see a move, dodge, dodge, dodge. The problem is, there's times where she will do her charge while a Call Beyond is going, so you'll get quit by the charge, hit by a Call Beyond. That's GG. She also has the Frenzy Blood, but that's relatively easy to dodge and kind of just a free hit on the head. It's kind of best to stay either on the two flaps behind, so that way you can just kind of stay there forever, or stay on the sides, that way you can still hit her, but punish the head slams when she does them. You can also shoot her in the face with a cannon. Very effective strategy. Next up, this is another controversial one, Shadows of Yharnam. Shadows of Yharnam is brutal to me, brother. This is another one of those fights where you can just have unlucky runs, where there's nothing you can do. You'll have runs where they are just all being perfectly annoying to keep you from being able to approach them in any way. You'll have the mid-range one doing his fire breath over the melee one. You'll have the melee one chasing you down as you're trying to kill the range one. The way I like to approach this, I like to whittle all three of them down to about half health. Kill the melee one, kill the mid-range one, then kill the full range one, right? Because the last thing you want is for all three of them to be alive summoning snakes. Death sentence. You're not winning that, right? Because the second you heal after the first snake batch, guess what's coming? Another bunch. You do not want all of them to be alive to summon snakes. If that happens, it's GG. Bold Hunter's Mark out if you get the chance. Restart the fight. You're not winning. Next up is the Pthumerian Elder. This has got to be the coolest boss in Bloodborne, right? I mean, dude, just look at that weapon. But Pthumerian Elder is a ton of fun, right? I know I'm moving very fast, but there's like 40 placements on this list, brother. Pthumerian Elder is really fun. He has a pyromancy weapon that just changes depending on what he needs. Phase 1 is a joke, right? You can just brutally beat Phase 1. He just moves slowly, doesn't do many fast attacks. Phase 2, however, he adds like fire projectiles onto his swipes. He can use the bow 3 times. He teleports more. His damage shoots way up. He gets a new AoE. Pthumerian Elder, if you come in here at the appropriate level, can absolutely curb stomp you. Both times I came in here, I was regrettably overleveled for this fight. Both times. But even on the second one when I was overleveled, he was still cooking me for a little bit there. So if you come in here at the appropriate level, the Pthumerian Elder will turn you inside out. He can just kind of gun you down instantly with his bow in Phase 2. 3 shots with the bow, one of them is a counter hit, suddenly you're dead. He can gun you down insanely quick, and the Pthumerian Elder does not play any games. Next up is going to be the Loran Darkbeast from the Loran Chalices. This is a reskin of Darkbeast Parl, but they kinda not really take away his biggest weakness. The biggest thing with Darkbeast Parl was the limb break system. You can just kind of reduce him to a pinata beating simulator, like I said. Here, you have to do a lot more damage to get that reward. Now, when you do get it, it kind of turns into the same thing, but Loran Darkbeast will go down fighting, that's for sure. He has access to most of Darkbeast Parl's final phase moveset in his first phase. You can still dodge through the AoE blast for more hits, but overall, Loran Darkbeast is just a super beefed up version of Darkbeast Parl. I can't put him any higher than this because of that, because he does still have that main weakness. Next up is going to be the Isz Ebrietas. This is when I was contemplating putting here, but Isz Chalice killed me once, so I said, alright fine, you can be in the video. It's just Ebrietas, but it hits way harder, right? You have a little bit less room to work with in this area, so it can be kind of annoying, but it's kind of just the exact same thing again, just more damage. Next up is going to be Laurence, the first Vicar, or Vicar, however you say it. I change on the fly. Laurence is probably the laziest boss in this game. Just reskin to the Cleric Beast, and you get to phase 2, and you just kind of hang out to his left shoulder, or his right shoulder, and just kind of wail on him. If you're rocking a whirly jigsaw, you're going to tear this guy inside out in phase 2. You can literally just sit there and chainsaw him the entire time. Like, when he's screaming and shooting lava out of his butt, or when he's breathing lava, just stand there and chainsaw him, right? Laurence with the whirly jigsaw is a joke. He can catch you and clip you a lot. The damaging crawl does a ton of damage, but that's redundant, but still. Laurence does a ton of damage, right? He's still an in-game boss, scaled for the hardest content in the game. As easy as he can be, he can still be ridiculously hard at the same time. Okay, next up, the Bloody Crow of Painhurts. This guy is ridiculous. For the point in the game you fight him, the Bloody Crow does so much damage. He heals on Visceral. He can heal himself with a blood vial. He has so much health. He can Visceral you for all of your damage. I have come in here with like 35 vitality and just gotten one shot, because guess what? If he doesn't do the 3-piece combo with the gun, he'll just Visceral you anyways and kill you. The Bloody Crow is absolutely foul. The amount of damage he can get on you at this point in the game is insane. I usually come here just before heading down to Yaragul. The Bloody Crow is absolutely foul, and the Chikage can pile some serious damage on you. The only way you're going to have an easy time with him is honestly if he is stupid and uses the trick brain of the Chikage for too long to drain his own HP. The Bloody Crow of Painhurts is like no other NPC hunter in this game. He is by far the hardest hunter fight. Next up is the Abhorrent Beast from the second Loran Chalice. Now this guy is very hard in the Forbidden Woods. He's decently hard in the previous Chalice, but this has got to be where he takes the cake. The Abhorrent Beast does so much damage on just his swipes. Add thunder damage on top of that, and you have a recipe for disaster. The Loran Darkbeast can be so unbelievably fast, and then sometimes he can also be hilariously slow. It's kind of a weird mixed bag, but he does also have something that I didn't even know he had until my most recent run of the game. He has an ultimate super explosive wave Majin Vegeta attack, where he just dives down, slams the ground, boom, big lightning AoE, tons of damage. I didn't even know he could do this, but he certainly caught me with it, and he walloped my health bar, that's for sure. The Abhorrent Beast is a boss I don't have a ton of experience with, but this guy was unbelievable. He impressed me so much when I fought him. He's also one of my favorites. The Abhorrent Beast is just a ton of fun. It's nice to have a much more closer to human-sized beast, or just a humanoid beast to fight with. It feels more even, while at the same time being unbelievably hard. But the Abhorrent Beast is very fast, very strong. He's got a couple AoEs, and some of his slams will have trails that go forward, right? So they'll be ranged attacks. The Abhorrent Beast is very strong, though, no doubt. Next up is going to be the Pthumerian Descendant from the last Pthumeru Chalice. This man, in one word, is speed. He is so fast with his stupid show tells. He's very hard to parry, incredibly unpredictable. It can't be just me, man. I have the hardest time parrying this guy of any boss in Bloodborne. He is so fast, all of his attacks look the same while having different timings. Pthumerian Descendant is ridiculous, and not to mention the most infuriating part, he can throw his show tails through the pillars. This is the most infuriating thing ever. Like, listen, I can't parry you through the pillars, so why can you throw those through the pillars? The arena you fight him in is definitely what makes this last Pthumerian Descendant fight so hard. If you fought him in the arena of the first one, he would go down much easier, but this arena makes it ridiculous, right? Him, the Pthumerian Elders arena would be much easier. But as it stands, Pthumerian Descendant will absolutely blast you in the last one. Next up is going to be the Defiled Watchdog of the Old Lords. This is the worst nightmare to anybody running the Chalices. Now, I have a unique perspective in that I've never died to the Defiled Watchdog. I've never once died to him because I always come here so overleveled. But also when I come in here, I use the Charred Hunter set for more fire resistance. So I come in here to the max prepared. Like, it is unbelievable the amount of preparation I do to avoid getting stuck on this fight. But he's still definitely insanely hard. He has AoEs, he has dashes, he has his really janky hitboxes. On counter, he can one-shot you with any of his attacks pretty much. If he catches you on a counter hit with any of his attacks, instant death. Especially one of his AoEs. If you get stuck right behind him, you're done, right? You can get stuck under him when he does these, and it will just do an unbelievable amount of damage. Even without the Defiled modifier, this guy would be unbelievably tough. Next up is going to be the Headless variant of the Bloodletting Beast. I told you earlier he was my worst nightmare, and I meant it. This guy turned me inside out in my first playthrough. Definitely killed me the most. I fought this guy for like 3 hours with my level 200 character on my first playthrough, and he just decimated me. His slam attack has the most insane range, bro. I cannot believe this. You can be all the way at his tail, having a wank bat there, and he will still get you with the slam that's 25 feet away. I can't express the nonsense enough. And then you get him halfway down, you think, oh, okay, this is going pretty well. He pops out the stupid worm that possesses the Guardian Ape and Zakir. Like, are you serious? The worm attacks add rapid poison, which he doesn't do them very often, but they can be janky to avoid. The worm is very annoying in this phase, but he also gets a different version of a Call Beyond, kinda not really. It's a ranged blood attack. It can be annoying, but it can be dodged relatively easily. But if you get caught by it, it can pile up some damage on you, no doubt. This guy has so much health, so much attack power, so much range. He has every annoying thing. But right now we're down to the final two. And once I say this one, you'll know who the last one is. Number 2, Ludwig. Phase 1 Ludwig is nothing, right? At first, he was the hardest thing ever to me. However, as time has gone on, I've learned this guy's a chump. He has one good move, and the hitbox is huge. He has his dash, right? But all of his jumps, very easy to dodge. For the delayed one, just wait till you hear him scream the second time, dodge. The first one, he jumps, time it out to about 2.5 seconds, dodge, right? Very easy stuff. All of his normal attacks, dodge through and punish. Phase 1 Ludwig is a chump. Phase 2 delays his attacks in such weird ways, with charges and such, and sometimes he does them lightning fast, right? Sometimes he is Abhorrent Beast quick, and then sometimes he is One Reborn quick, so it's tough to say. Phase 2 Ludwig just delays everything so much, and he does have his super cheap ultimate attack where you can get unlucky and be too far in front of him to avoid the slam. When he puts the sword up, does the AoE, slams down, if you get caught, it's instant death. Nothing you can do. No amount of HP is going to save you from this. You're going to die. You need to make sure you're close to him so that way you can get behind him and just wail on him during this. But getting caught does spell instant death. And number 1, Orphan of Kos. What do I need to say? We all knew it was going to be the Orphan of Kos. No doubt in anybody's mind. Do I even need to explain this? One thing I'll explain is Phase 1 Orphan is easy, right? You can parry this guy to death in no time. Phase 2 Orphan is so unpredictable in the way he jumps around that it is honestly unfair sometimes. I've had runs where all he does is jump around and throw stuff, and then when he's on the ground, he does the lightning attack, making you have to run and dodge, and then he just jumps around some more until he eventually just whittles you down out of your vials, right? The Orphan can do stuff like that, where it's just, how am I even supposed to fight this? There's no approach to this. It doesn't happen too often, but it can happen, right? And the fact that it can happen makes him have to get number 1, where there's a situation where the boss can be literally unkillable, right? Orphan of Kos is absolutely insane. The damage that he can get on you constantly, even not on counter hits, he'll just chunk you. He doesn't care, right? This guy doesn't care about your vitality stat. He doesn't care about your physical defense. He doesn't care about your damage most of the time because he has so much HP. Orphan of Kos is unbelievable, but if you're packing rapid poison, you can get twice the damage on him with that because he has the multi-phase glitch that Murgo's Wet Nurse has. So I guess you can say there is a cheese strat to him. You can also lure him onto the rocks to get the AI freeze, but I've never done that. We all knew Orphan of Kos would be number one. Let's not pretend that we're surprised about this. Orphan of Kos is just the hardest, right? No doubt. Well, that's gonna do it for that one, boys. That was a lot of talking. You probably noticed my voice get noticeably more and more thrashed as time went on. Standing up and recording all this, no script. I didn't script myself for any of this. I just wanted to come off the top of my head because when I script, I come off too robotic. I wanted to just give my honest opinions on a lot of this stuff, so I did just that. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with my placement? Do you think I'm a little off on a lot of this stuff? Do you think that my playing this game way too much, like I said, 12 times in the last 2 months, 13 times in total, 3 times with the chalices. If you think me playing the game so much invalidates my opinion on how hard the bosses are, let me know. I think it doesn't. I think I can still view these bosses with an objective lens, but who knows, maybe people disagree. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bloodborne content's going to come back. As you noticed from the last part I did, there's a slight change in the format of daily Bloodborne remaster updates. Just taking more from Mordecai at this point. I just like the way he does this stuff, right? He does it too clean. So yeah, those will continue. Maybe we'll get this remaster eventually, boys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. One more thing. Thank you for 115 subscribers. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't talk about them too often. But when I opened my phone and saw that, I was thinking, wow. Like over 100 people saw my stuff and said, wow, what is this idiot doing? Let me drop a sub for him out of pity. But still, thank you for that. I appreciate it a whole lot. Nobody's watching this far into the video. This is a 45-minute video, for God's sake. Nobody's listening to this, but still. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. My name is Carmen, but I do sometimes go by Ellism on YouTube. That'll do it. Y'all take it easy.